Hey, everybody, here we go again with the Inside Enduro podcast. We're brought to you by the Inside Enduro Experience, Snow Bike, Enduro, and e-mountain bike rentals. Have a great time out there. Today, we have our guest. This guy's legendary, formerly from the Rockstar Factory Husqvarna Racing Team, the technician, the psychiatrist, the nutritionist, the relationship manager for Colton Haker. These guys kicked ass together. 3 World Super Enduro FIM championships, 3 National Enduro championships. Pretty epic story. Josh Schaecher.
You got it. Thank you, James.
Welcome, Josh.
I'm happy to be here.
Good to have you in Montana.
Montana's been great to me.
I heard it's been a crappy time so far.
Well, thanks to Rosemary, she saved it. I mean, with her cooking and hospitality, but otherwise the snow biking was just not as fun as I was expecting it to be.
Really?
No, I'm just kidding, man. I'm hooked. You got me hooked. I want to build a snow bike now.
Yeah, when you came up and you pulled up on the bike and you admitted that you're actually talking to yourself and laughing.
Yes.
By yourself in your own helmet. I think that's what snow biking is.
Yeah, it was right out of the parking lot. It was a little bit intimidating because the skis pulling you. It's a weird feeling being a dirt bike rider for so many years. But as soon as I hit that trail and some powder, the uncontrollable laughter inside my helmet started.
I don't know what it is. I mean, I think it's the point where you know you can keep it pinned and go, and you're not going to hit a square edge or a loose rock and just eat shit hard. It can happen in really shitty conditions with logs, I suppose, but it's definitely a lot more relaxed. You don't have the fear. You can kind of let up a bit, but yet pin it.
And that confidence just goes higher and higher all day. That comfortability of just pinning it through the snow, especially when you're in an open field or something, not around the trees, you don't have to shut off.
Yeah.
6th gear.
You know, it's been interesting. We also have sitting in with us our resident entertainment, Matt Spears.
Can you guys believe they let me back on the mic?
We were wondering. He's been filling in doing massage with 1040 weight motor oil, which the guys seem to like.
I've also been keeping busy with exotic dancing.
Which everybody needs a hobby. But it's almost like having this kind of forest gremlin out there because, you see him coming in his orange Oompa Loompa suit and you hear him just like just pinning the bike. You hear on the bike and then you hear so he's definitely having fun. So Matt, you've logged 2 full days on a snow bike.
2 days. First day, it was awesome. Got back to the trailer and I felt a bit of a tickle in my throat. And like many of you guys have probably thought, oh my gosh, I think I got corona. But it was just because I was having so much fun. Kind of lost my voice a bit. But yeah, they're so much fun. Yeah, it's pretty hard to stop.
When you get close enough to your buddy, I found myself yelling louder to just make sure you hear me having fun.
Yeah, it was like, I want you to know that I know that you know I'm having fun.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is,
It was epic. How many hours do you think we were out?
All of them.
Yeah, well,
4 maybe. 4, yeah. Because when you dirt bike ride, maybe you don't put
2 tanks of gas. That's what I'm going to call it.
Yeah, 2 tanks. 2 tanks of fun.
When you moto, you kind of, maybe it's like 2.5 hours of actual engine hour. No, this is like 4 hours of engine hours.
You just keep rolling.
Yeah.
And rolling.
And your bikes were set up cherry, man. Like from the hand warmers to the engine to the comfortability of that seat. I mean, I know why it's so important now to have that nice seat on there too.
Yeah, I don't think if you have a sharp seat that you're trying to put in your ass crack for a corner and that seat is frozen, and your ass crack isn't frozen, it's kind of when a unstoppable object hits a impenetrable object.
Kind of like when you hit that stump.
You can get it right. Yeah, I hit a stump yesterday, and so I had a couple guys kind of uncover it.
I was one of them.
Or not just uncover it. I think what happens is it gets uncovered, and then as someone else goes over, it just shoots enough snow just to give a veneer of covering. I hit it. I don't know what I hit, but the only way I could really describe it is if anyone's seen someone change a baby, you know, and especially a baby who has a diaper changed a lot, you know how they just put their legs up in the air, like, so you just literally got basically, you know, just a pure focal shot of baby taint. Well, that's how I kind of felt like maybe I was in that position and then somebody shot a cannonball at my taint. And whatever muscles or ligaments that live in that area, it hurts both legs to move. And it was pretty rough. I took a mega shot right to that spot. And I think what I'm learning is if a snow bike does stop, like a dirt bike pitches and goes away, you know, and you go to one way or the other, and you just separate.
Yeah, they deflect.
They kind of, one deflects one way, you go the other way. I think being a snow bike, being locked into the snow and almost 13 feet long, when it stops, you just hit it like a tree. So that's one.
You did hit a tree. Yep.
Yeah, I came up behind him and I saw the tree do like, I think it did at least 180-degree rotation because the roots were sticking up.
Yeah, I saw dirt on the snow.
Yeah.
I reviewed my GoPro footage, and I was definitely the person that uncovered this because you couldn't tell it was in the snow. It was just pow, and I was carving. And then I hit something, and I giggled. I was like, oh.
That was close.
Yeah, I was like, oh, that's sketch. About 2 minutes later, James pile drove that thing.
You know, then we learned later, unfortunately, yesterday was a learning experience for me. So
the ice.
Yeah, so the first day we went, it was just a rally fest pretty much. And then I just kind of had a couple events that happened. So I had one of our guys fell over and
in the creek.
Next to the creek.
Oh, next to the creek.
Yeah,
and then
right.
I came in to help him, and stupidly I went straight along the creek, and it was caved in. The creek hadn't frozen yet. So the bike, the whole front end sunk into the creek underneath the snow. I helped get him out, but then we had to dig that thing out. When I didn't realize all that water got between the carbides on the ski, and then it froze. And we get all set up to take off. I'd cleaned my goggles out because my goggles were hosed. And I'm like, all right, we're going to get going. And everyone's sitting there.
I'm right next to him.
I give it a little gas, and it's like kind of steep off to the left.
Yeah.
And as I give it gas, the bike just literally dives to the left, and I do a header.
Torpedo, as I saw it. It looked like a James torpedo.
I call it the Scud missile. Into the snow, face first. Mm-hmm. So all my shit's covered.
Again.
Goggles are covered again.
Yep.
I'm pretty much in disbelief that what had happened. I'm not really happy. And so I climb back up, and when it's like chest deep snow, and, you know, get the bike up, and, you know, I'm trying to kind of masquerade my unhappiness with the situation and get on the thing again.
Yeah, I helped him get it up. Oh, and I had a great view of him torpedoing into the snow. He hit the ground, so he hit the snow so hard. For a second, I was like, man, I do feel bad for that snow.
I don't know if it happened yesterday or maybe I was dreaming last night, but I had a dream I was like 8 feet under the snow. And I was breathing. I kind of see the light, and I'm like, "Guys, over here!" Because it wasn't like packed snow, you know. It was just kind of like real fluffy. But I don't know if it happened yesterday. Maybe it did because it's so fluffy. But I was under there, and I'm like, "Over here!"
But James, you didn't figure out that there was ice on his tracks yet.
No,
That's not. The story doesn't end there.
no, story doesn't end. So
we get the bike up. And James is covered in snow, so he has to take off his goggles again. He gets it all cleaned up.
And they weren't that clean, actually. I could barely see.
Oh, you could barely.
But I was just like, I was at the point where
you just want to go.
I just want to go.
Yeah, and you know, moving is going to help clear your goggles at least too. Like that's something.
Yeah,
sometimes you start off, you can't see, and then
get some airflow going.
So Jess rips out of there. You start your bike up. You're ready to rip.
And I've already done that. I mean, we start off like how many times? So I've like started off probably now like, you know, I don't know, 100 times on a snow bike, and you're just like, I'm gonna drop it and I'm gonna rip forward, and it just fucking pitches me straight face first into the fucking snow again.
At this point, I just start my bike and go the opposite way. I'm like, all right, this guy needs some space. It's gonna be.
Josh was kind of behind a tree. He couldn't see it crash, and he heard the thud and the bike turn off, and he's like, Josh is pointing at me, and he's like pointing at James where he is, and he's like going like this. Like, did he crash? But he wasn't talking. And I was like shaking my head like, yeah.
And then Matt and I just went for a rip.
We got out of there.
I know sometimes you just need a little space.
Yeah, it's better just to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At the point, I was wondering if I had a stroke. I was like, why am I getting pitched into the snow 2 times in a row? And
3.
And yeah, 3 times.
Yep.
And then
3.
our snow bike consultant extraordinaire, Jess Horlacher, expert, the snow bike guy.
He knows more about snow bikes than he gives himself credit for.
He knows a lot. I think we were joking about it yesterday. I think Jess, he likes to act like I don't know nothing, and he just likes to use that so he can kind of club people because he knows an incredible amount about a lot of things.
Yeah.
And he was on the mark because I was literally about ready to try to crush my bike like a beer can. That's where I was at with that program.
James has gotten 25 feet, and he tipped over 3 times.
Yeah,
and picking these bikes back up, like you can pick them up, but in deep snow, it takes kind of a lot of effort because you sink down to your waist.
And we were on a slope too.
Yeah, so you had to pick it uphill.
So that didn't help. And then try to keep it in context. Out of all the times I've ridden a snow bike, that's more times than I've gone down like that almost in the entire time. Yeah. And I'm like, And Jess saw what was going on, and he comes over right away, and he's just like, James, he goes like, calm down. It's not your fault. And I'm like thinking, okay, whatever. And I'm getting grumpy, and he's like, no. And he gets off, and he goes, I got to show you something. It's not your fault.
And you're trying to pick it up, and he's like, don't pick it up. It's not your fault.
And so we look at it, and this is a good lesson for everyone that snow bikes, because I did not know this. So when it went into the creek, it got the carbides wet, and they froze. So there's a big block of ice underneath the carbides. And if you have a block of ice there, those bikes will not steer and will not go.
No more cutting edge.
No, there's no more cutting. It'll literally just pitch one way or the other straight down into the snow. Yeah. So we took out avalanche shovel head and chipped off the ice off of the side carbides and the center carbides, and off we went. I literally probably would have lit the bike on fire and and started to try to make a impromptu set of snowshoes. And actually, I would have probably taken Matt's bike and just left the scene of the crime. But hey, lesson learned. Thanks to Jess.
Yeah,
he got us sorted out.
Your front ski was just a big, huge ice block.
Yep.
Yeah. I literally, I'm thinking to myself, literally, have I had a stroke? Like, what is going on?
Yeah.
I can't make it 3 feet. And so then solved, and man, we were off to the races the rest of the day.
Hey, my snow bike experience was epic. Thanks again for setting me up with that. From the bike to the backpack to some riding gear, whatever I needed, you guys had me covered. That backpack was epic, by the way, too.
Oh, yeah.
I've never carried a backpack that I felt so light on me and comfortable.
Yeah, I don't know what it is, because I was their Ava bag. I think they're out of Germany. They're stupid expensive.
Big bags, too.
Yeah, and they have the thing, you pull the T, and it basically makes like a parachute with an airbag.
Yeah.
and it's orange, which, whether I was under the snow or not, that's the thing you'd want to pull. But, so they come with these giant CO2 cartridges that apparently are sold individually and separately.
Yes.
So we've learned that. But, no, I was just totally impressed. We've built 8 of these bikes, and pretty much it cost, they're close to $25,000 a bike.
Right.
At cost. So,
yeah, dealer cost.
So retail, I think you're getting close to 30, to be honest. And the guys, Matt Dewar is kind of spearheaded the mechanicking, and then Matt here has had a huge part. He's done a large amount of the mechanicking, and Jess Horlacher has essentially been our consultant on how to set these bikes up, which is, virtually, priceless, because if you don't know, there's so many different, as we know with dirt bikes, there's so many opinions of, You know, do you need to run cone valves? Do you need to run this? Do you need to run that? Do you need radiator guards? Do you not need radiator guards? Do you need, temperature, digital readouts? And I mean, it's just on and on and on and on. And he's just been an awesome resource since he's done it so long, and he's just gone hardcore. He knows what works, what doesn't work, what breaks, what doesn't break. And quite honestly, he made it very, very clear with our bike setups because we didn't know. So we dump all this money and we built 8 of these bikes.
8 bikes in a few weeks, a time.
And with the 8 bikes, we've tested them all. We have ripped them like nothing held back.
Oh, no. Full on.
I didn't hold back.
Yeah,
100%.
I mean, and that's what's so cool. So, Josh, with your first day, who else gets on a snowmobile or a dirt bike and goes out and just pins it with a smile and just let her go?
No, you couldn't even, as a first-time dirt biker, I don't think you could have a day like that.
No, you would die.
Yeah, as a dirt biker, that's your first time on a snow bike. It was a different story, and man. I'm glad I did it, and you got me a little hooked. And
if you know how to shift gears and twist the throttle, you're gonna have a really good time.
Yeah. If you can twist gears and shift the throttle, that's
and the confidence just keeps getting higher. So you shoot those gaps and those
through the trees.
And
Oh
stuff.
my gosh!
Yeah.
I still kind of slow up if somebody leaves a big powder flume, and I tell you what, it's a lot funner sucking snow dust than
100%.
dirt dust.
Totally.
It's almost refreshing. You're like, has a little exhaust with it even. It's pretty nice.
Yeah, and this Montana, so like you said, it's real dry. I hadn't experienced that before, and it wasn't like getting wet. I didn't get wet.
Yeah. Is it amazing?
I was in snow up to my chest at one point when I tried to lift my bike up, and I went down like 4 feet.
And we were wearing moto boots, too.
I did. I wore my Tech 10s yesterday.
Yeah, you don't get wet. It's the snow is dry, and actually, it even gets a lot drier. Here they call it cold smoke, where you can literally, a whole handful and give it a light, and it literally just.
Yeah, those snow dust clouds were lingering, especially in those big fields where we were ripping rut tracks.
Yeah.
As Matt developed a figure 8, I saw that. That was pretty cool. But that cloud that you created would stay up in the air for a while.
Yeah, so light.
Cool.
And then the sun reflects off the crystals. Yeah. But when someone shoots a tree gap, man, I kind of break because you're kind of coming through the, you're coming through the dust cloud and you're like, okay, I'm going to keep her straight and just hope that I'm not going to hit a stump or something that's been uncovered by somebody. But
yeah,
for me at least, you're in 3rd or 4th gear ripping, and you think you're going fast, but then once you get into the trees and you're going through trees in that same gear at that speed, you're like, I'm going really fast.
Yeah. Well, it's nice because, you definitely learn how to preemptively carve and really keep the momentum. You never chop that throttle. You always keep that throttle, some positive throttle and little nip of the clutch. And I don't know how many times where literally I was going down, in the trees, and you give it a handful of throttle and it just brings you right out.
Yeah.
It's so cool.
I learned that pretty quick too. It wants to stand you up when you're on the gas, that inertia, that big track spinning. And it's a nice big square platform that'll put you upright too. Once you learn it, utilize it.
Yeah, it comes pretty quick. It's just such a quick learning curve, and I'm excited about it. I wasn't quite sure about it. I had other people kind of push me into it, and I'm glad, so now, we had all 8 of these bikes. They've all been tested.
Yep.
And literally perfect. And I don't know. I think it just becomes, we got lucky with how the engine works and how the intakes work and how the thermostats work, because no overheat issues. They all run super strong, super power.
And these guys got 3 different models of tracks on the bikes too, and so all 3 models were working good. I got to try out 2 different kinds. I definitely prefer the longer one just because I think it's going to be a better introductory level one, because it's a little easier to get traction and stuff and not get stuck. But
yeah,
I really enjoyed the short one.
Yeah,
and I think guys like, I know a good friend of ours, Keith Curtis, he's definitely goes towards the short track because he keeps everything pinned. And if you have that short track, it spins up faster rotation. But currently right now we've had weird snow conditions. There's snow up to your chest, but there's no base. It literally goes soft snow all the way to the earth. And once you get a base, that's where you get the real traction, having harder snow underneath the softer snow. And when it's bottomless, no doubt, running a 137 long track, you can get away with a lot more.
You're able to pull lines at the 120. You kind of the 120. You got to finesse it a bit more.
Yeah.
Just check out the Inside Enduro YouTube video of snow biking, and you'll get how much fun it is. I think
Heck yeah,
that sums it up.
We'll be launching another one. So yeah, man, it was an awesome time on the snow bikes, and we have groups coming out to rent bikes in February, and we've kind of kept it on the QT. We really haven't advertised it because amongst building these bikes, we're not sure that they're all going to work. We're hoping they're going to be great. I mean, we put everything top notch into them.
A lot of custom parts.
A lot of fab parts, and you get these things together. And I wasn't even sure exactly when they were going to be built because we have people prototyping parts, sending parts, sending them back, having them re-CNC them.
Yeah.
And thinking, well, maybe. And so finally we get these things together, and to have them go out and put them through that test and literally come back unscathed, it was, I didn't expect it. I was really surprised.
Yeah. So, I did a couple log rides on mine. I did a few drops, not on purpose. Yeah. And it held up.
Yeah, super, super tough. And the timber sleds, they're all timber sleds. We have the Riot 120s, the Aero 137s. We have an Aero 3 129 we haven't hooked up. So we're setting up a 9th bike, but I think it's going to be the same as everything else because we have all the same fab parts. Yep. So we're just waiting for another bike to show up.
Yeah.
But, man, I think it's probably the largest, more at least homogenous fleet put out there for snow bikes.
Yeah, I can't wait to see all 9 of them ripping. I hope I'm in that pack that day.
Could happen.
But I can't wait to see all 9 of them ripping through the POW at the same time.
Well, I think this is a good segue to move into, because if you want to be part of that 9, you've moved out of Southern California. You're now in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, which is shooting distance from here on any day, because I've driven from Montana to Coeur d'Alene and back in the same day. So you have a big POW day. You're
a phone call away.
You're not even a half a day drive.
As long as I'm not on the road for the AMA Extreme Championship.
And that was the segue. So
nice plug. That was smooth.
So Josh Schaecher goes from the factory Husky team with longtime friend Colton Haker to become the premier track director of the KENDA AMA Extreme Championship.
That's right.
So, Josh, I'd like to hand it over to you to tell us what is exactly the KENDA AMA Extreme Championship.
Well, the championship's going to be 10 rounds this year. Most of the races we've already been to. I'm sure quite a few of them you've been to, James. We're going to do an East and a West. It's a regional championship, and there's going to be an overall title for the pro men and the pro women. They're also going to have their individual East and West, but all 7 of our classes are going to have East and West championships to their certain coast, whatever they're racing on. I'm on the wrong page. We're going Arizona with the Grindstone Extreme. The Rev Limiter in Texas is going to be East-West shootout, so we're going to bring both together and get the battle out there. The Iowa Hard Enduro, that's a new one for me. I got a lot of good feedback coming from that race from the riders I speak to that are going. Last Dog in Southern California, San Bernardino, Mad Moose in Marquette, Michigan, Donner Extreme in Donner, California. That's put on by Brian Garahan Off-Road Racing, and I'm anticipating that to be pretty killer too. Silver Mountain Extreme, right up the road from you guys here in Kellogg, Idaho.
Not far away.
Good event, been to that one. Tough Like War, hot, nasty coal mine. That's an extreme race. Good one out in Tamaqua, Pennsylvania. Bad Medicine, also another pretty scorcher last year when we were there. That's in July, so it's warm. And then we'll wrap the season up at Battle of the Goats, which was epic. And Battle of Goats is the weekend before the TKO Knockout, which is the Grand National Championship for the AMA. So I'll be there as well, supporting that race. It is not part of our championship, but all of the riders in our championship, I'm sure, will be there, especially the pro class and whatnot.
Super, man. So what is your personal role? So when you go to these races, what are you doing? And, you know, what's the goal of what you're doing with all of the races?
My goal is to elevate the series, make it more professional for everybody involved, from the teams, the riders, the spectators, the vendors. We want this to be legit.
So are you bringing consistency to, say, officiating and timing and scoring? And
Yeah, the main focus, I interviewed last year during the series the top 10 riders at each race I went to with Colton, and then eventually Noah Keppel later in the year. But anyways, the main thing everybody wanted to see more of was consistent scoring. And I'll kind of give you the top 3 here. After talking to all the riders after like 6 rounds of racing that we took care of, consistent scoring was the main thing. So we're going to bring a scoring system to each round with live laps. You're going to be able to sign up with live laps for each race. So one website's used to sign up for all 10 of our races. The series points are going to be kept on there. And we're going to make sure that everybody knows where they finished. Even if they didn't make a whole lap, we're going to have checkpoints out there. So a guy knows if he beat his buddy, even if he didn't make it to the finish line. Everybody wants to know how they finished after the race, and we're going to be able to get those results to you guys as quickly as possible.
Yeah, I think that's incredibly important, and it gets lost in some of the races where there seems to be their main purpose is to take care of the pros, get them paid, get them out, when the pros typically aren't even 5% of the gate of all the other racers. Totally. And if you have B-class racers and A-class racers that have taken time off work, they've traveled, they've made the expense, and they come with their friends, they want to know, you know, did they beat their buddy? And they want to see it presented. And we've seen so many races where there's no results available, there's no times available, and it goes for weeks. And you know, you're like, okay, well, this is the group of people that are supporting these races, really.
Passionate individuals about the sport.
Yeah, 95 plus %. You could actually argue when you do the pro payouts, it's a negative for the event. Like, it does the draw of having, you know, the great names, and, you know, and the awe factor of, you know, watching how these guys tackle terrain. But I think what you're doing is an incredible way to provide that consistency and give people a reason, when no matter what class you're in, to travel more, to do more of the series. And especially when you do subsequent years, you know, like, hey man, you know, I did this race and I made it to checkpoint 3 this year. Well, man, I made it all the way through, or I made it to checkpoint 6 this year. And that's what Erzberg's like.
That's a great point. They have, is it 18 checkpoints there?
25.
25 checkpoints?
Yeah, 25 checkpoints or 27 checkpoints. And that's how people, you know, grade themselves with Erzberg. You know, you make it to checkpoint 4, to checkpoint 6, you know, checkpoint 10.
Totally.
And it gives you something to shoot for, because, you know, not everyone, obviously, who's riding out there is shooting for a national championship. They're doing it because they're passionate. They're doing it because they're interested in the sport. And they want to know for themselves, if it's just competing against themselves, you know, to see, hey, how far did I make it this year? Or, you know, some of the guys I ride with back home, you know, did I outdo my buddy? Or, you know, or like that guy I tangled with last year, you know, and, you know, I'm screaming back and forth with Rodrigo.
He's a screamer.
Fuck you. No, fuck you. You know, and we love Rodrigo's a friend of mine. He's passionate.
He's a legend.
And he's just, you know, I mean, he's into it. And, you know, I appreciate that. Anyone who's really getting after it. And it's just so cool. And you can see how you do against your, you know, did you increase your level from the previous year? So to me, that's a really cool thing. What about like consistency with I would imagine, marking and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, like I said, talking to all those riders, that was in the top 3 things that they wanted to see improved over the next year if I got involved at the level I was planning on. Course marking. So I'm going to bring consistent course marking to all the rounds. At least we're going to be using the same colored ribbon to chase each round.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to be at each round at least a week ahead of time, pre-riding the course, making sure that it's marked consistently, safely, and difficult enough. As they ramp up their format from the first race of the weekend to the last race, we're going to try and make sure that ramp up is consistently getting more difficult at every round. So by the time it's the main event, as I'm going to call it, the pros are getting a hard ride in.
Yeah.
It's an extreme event. It needs to be difficult enough. And I think, nothing against any of these organizers, man. They have been super gracious and open to me coming and helping them elevate this, because I think, if you haven't rode with Cody Webb or Colton Haker, you don't necessarily know how hard they can push it, or how difficult of terrain they can get through if you haven't been there. I mean, it's one thing to watch it on TV. It's a different thing to be out there on the course. And I've spent years riding with the top 10 American extreme riders. Like, I lived with Colton, so when he trained, I trained.
Yeah.
We rode together. We would go out on awesome training days where I'd ride one bike with one setup, he'd ride the other bike, and we'd switch. He'd do the hill climb on this bike, then he'd do it on the other one, then I'd have to go up the hill. And then we'd do a downhill swap. So I think I got my head wrapped around it pretty good on the difficulty level and how to ramp it up, because we want everybody to get the experience. Like you said, James, these amateur guys that are showing up, these are our customers, man. We want them to be pleased just as much, if not more, than Colton and Cody. Those guys, no matter what, are going to be there, and I know I can make the track difficult for them, but we want to make sure that our amateur riders throughout that day are having a good time, getting the time on the bike, and finishing that race pooped out.
Yeah. And that's a really good point. And I look at it too. It's kind of a hard one, and it does put pressure on organizers to, everyone I talk to, they always have that, like, man, is it hard enough?
Because you can make it too hard,
then they make it too hard, and it's like, oh, is it too hard? And they're like, they don't, obviously they feel the heat, but, unfortunately, if you make it, if you undershoot it, and all the guys basically, like, no one's even off the bike, then is it really a hard enduro? And one of the things I've kind of looked at, like, well, geez, that's kind of a hard thing to hit for anyone. Like, how do you grade that? And kind of one thing's, I think one of the ways to test that almost is, say if you have a guy like, Haker or whatever, that he can hit it, but if he even bobbles a bit, he's pushing. Even the top guys, like, and then that shows that, yeah, it's possible to ace it. But if you're off a little bit, you're going to be off pushing. And that's what Romaniacs is. That's what Erzberg is. If Graham bobbles something, he's picking up and moving a bike just like everybody else. And to me, that's what hard enduro is. If a good enduro rider can just ride the whole thing, well, then you basically just have, kind of a more technical enduro race.
Yeah, I think it's a fine line that
soft enduro,
soft, medium, and hard enduro.
Yeah,
extreme enduro.
Yeah, and if you're gonna call it extreme, like,
it's got to be extreme.
Yeah,
it's a fine line though, right, guys? Like, I can't imagine any other race is having to push the difficulty level, but not push it over the edge. I mean, the only thing I think is Supercross guys. They build some pretty techie tracks, but we're building, like, is it possible? Is it barely possible, or is it not possible?
Yeah.
And some of these obstacles, like, you're looking at it for the pros and the amateurs, and you're like, can they all make it up this without spectator help?
Yeah.
Or can they make it up with just helping each other?
Yeah, and that's a good point. So it is a hard thing. But I think you guys are definitely on the right path. The most important to me is, and from what I've heard from others, is the officiating and the scoring. And the course marking. Those are the most important things, because say you have a promoter that the race wasn't quite as hard as they wanted it to be, but they had great timing, great scoring, everyone knew where they finished, they knew where they were. Everyone's going to be happy for what it is, because they know where they've placed, and hey, guess what? The next year, the promoter can make it a little harder. They can make it harder. But if you have a complete non-existent scoring, or terrible timing and people don't know where they're starting or where they're at, to me, that is a failure that should have been avoided, and that's the promoter's fault. Simple as that.
Totally.
Now, I mean, you got to give anyone a little space. Hey, you made it too hard, and people are pissed. They're like, well, it was an extreme enduro.
Yeah.
You know, if you go to Martin Fernandemans and go, hey, Martin, we want to really talk to you that this was too hard. What do you think Martin's reaction is going to be?
He's going to laugh. He'd say, well, you know, I made it.
Yeah, maybe Martin would say, maybe you train harder next time.
Yeah.
You know?
Martin's go-to is he made it. Dude,
Yeah.
he rides all that stuff. It's
Yeah.
great.
It's a fine line though, because sometimes you make something and you're like, you know the difficulty, you ride it, but then you get 4 inches of rain.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I got to give it again. I'm giving it up to the organizers that are already putting on these races, because extreme is quite new in the States here, and to a lot of these clubs, they might be putting on hare scrambles or enduros or whatever form of racing they're already doing, but extreme is new to them.
Yeah.
So that's why I think everybody's been so gracious to get my help, or you know, have us, the team, the whole extreme team, come in and help.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's important, you know. I mean, you know, your experience, you've been to Romania, you've done coursework for Martin. It's huge. You've experienced Erzberg. And I kind of look at it from the same perspective, you know, knocked off 3 Romaniacs, Erzberg. And, you know, like, for example, just like even little stuff. No one here, if you have whatever ribbon you use, a blue ribbon, a pink ribbon, and I've seen some of these events where people blow out corners and the whole field goes off into somewhere, you know, that's a problem. And there's some simple solutions. You know, obviously in Europe, they mark with an alternate color. So for the first, you know, you have a right angle turn ducking back into the woods, they use yellow ribbon, and you put some yellow ribbon that goes past that turn, and immediately you blow a corner and you see yellow ribbon, you know immediately that you're off track.
Exactly.
And when you whip it around, instead of just going through hunting for more whatever color they used.
More arrows.
Yeah, more arrows, more pink, you know. And it's such a simple thing to do, and I've not seen anyone do it yet.
Yeah, and that's something I totally want to do. Became very clear to me when I was in Romania. You know, I spent a month there laying out course this last year, and they've refined it. They've been doing it for a long time. How many years? I know it was
This was the 17th year, I think.
Yeah, anyways, so they have it. This is the system they're using for marking right now isn't the first system they used.
No.
They've used arrows. Obviously, they use navigation on top of it, but the course is generally marked so good that you don't have to use your navigation. But they just kept it simple, man.
I will disagree with you on that. It is. I mean, even with the navigation, I run 2 GPSs. Graham has got lost heaps of time. I think they would argue Graham didn't win the last one, or the one because he had to follow someone else in. And I have been there where, yes, some parts are really well marked, but then you have the splits where you take off from a checkpoint and you have iron, bronze, silver, and it gets confusing. And you use a GPS and then you're following the blue ribbons, and I have banged off of those yellow ribbons before, even with the GPS, and you see it, and it just lets you know right away, because once that mistake is made and people are off into the wherever, especially if you're running an event in a smaller area, where if you go another 50 yards, you're back on the track somewhere, you know, back in the main line, where typically that doesn't happen in Romania because you're doing such huge
distance,
huge distances. But, you know, it just kind of shuts down that problem, you know, before it you know, escalates into something else, which is pretty cool. But I've definitely used it for sure. And then especially you've seen in Romania where you come out of the trees into kind of like an alpine open area, and there's nothing really to affix ribbons to. And then it goes over the kind of the crest of the mountain and then dives off somewhere. And if you're 20 yards in the wrong direction, I mean, you can't see it.
100%. That was the hardest place to mark track. When you come up into a grassy field, there's nothing to tie to.
Yeah.
And it's openness and then into the trees.
Yeah, and you think, you know, it's like, oh, it shouldn't be too hard, but you came up at one point, you have 360 degrees of a crown of a mountain where you can drop off this mountain at any point, and you're marking it with one ribbon going in. You know, it's like, yeah, I mean, it's definitely, and they've got it down to a science, and I think that's excellent to bring that kind of level to the United States for sure.
Yeah, and on top of that, I've been to, races all over the world, different disciplines, from the 6 days events, the extreme events, the rally events, hare scrambles, motocross, MXGP, supercross. So I think I'm trying to bring all that knowledge. I feel like I've found the way to best utilize all my experience and knowledge.
Yeah.
And being this track director here, and I'd like to back up a little bit and kind of give how I got into this, because that'll give credit where credit's due, because there is a lot of other people. This isn't just me. There is a team of people behind this series right now that are making it possible, and I couldn't do it without them either. So, last year when I was on the series, I started talking with everybody, like I said, the riders, the teams, the AMA, and then other people that were part of this organization. One person in particular, Mark Cook, because he's Moto Colors. He puts on the rev limiter and the override. Awesome events, and he's a well-organized guy that's an experienced promoter. And so when I presented this to AMA, they suggested, hey, you get involved with Mark, man. He's the guy. And Mark can kind of cover a lot of the bases that I don't know yet necessarily. When working with sponsors, when working with logistics with the AMA, Mark's been there. He's done that. And him and his family have been super helpful to me and helping get me in the right direction. And they are the sanctioning promoter for the whole series. Moto Colors is in charge of this series. I am the track director within that series, but I'm super happy to have those guys on board.
Yeah, I think it's good. I've known Mark Cook for a while, and he and his family definitely strive to put on a professional event. They always seem to be well organized and get it done, and so I'm excited as well to have their participation to kind of bring the level up, all across the board. And like you said, it's really great to see these people that have, taken the time, because most people have no idea what it takes to put on a race, and especially with the complexity of hard enduro, and it's a complex process.
Yeah, and it takes passion, because it is so in depth.
Yeah, it's definitely a work of love. So it's great to see organizations like Moto Colors get involved and help elevate it across the board. And we're looking to see more travel back and forth from the European riders to the US, to the US riders to the Europeans, and we have some promotions that we're coming up to try to kind of expedite that process.
Everybody pay attention to when these promotions starts coming out, because they're going to be epic. This is stuff I'm going to be trying to win. I don't know if I'm even going to be qualified to win this stuff, but Inside Enduro's going to be dropping some badass stuff pretty soon.
Yeah, we have some bombs coming. So I'm kind of one of those people. I kind of like, until I have it really organized and ready to let loose out of the cage, just kind of like the snow bikes.
Yeah.
I like to make sure like they're ready to go.
Well, you're stronger than I am, dude. I'd be like wanting to tell everybody about this stuff. I'm trying to hold back telling everybody about your stuff right now.
Yeah, we've got some stuff in the works that I don't even know if some of you guys can imagine.
So it's going to be, we're excited. And to me, that's part of all of this is, that's what makes hard enduro fun. It's like the possibilities of what you can do and the travel and the adventure. And, really, is it really much of an adventure if you haven't had your ass kicked or a cannonball shot at your taint at some point? Not that any of us want this.
Well, I've had that feeling too, I gotta say.
Was this like a 2-pound cannonball or like a 5-pounder?
I think it was a 5-pounder.
Oh, geez.
For sure.
That's a big cannon.
I tell you what, it felt pretty rough. So I didn't know if I was going to poop or go blind. Maybe both. Maybe both from the splatter. I know I had some questions. Another thing I think that promotes the series, which I think is great that, you and along with Mark and Moto Colors is doing, is you're having the AMA, the 6 AMA classes. And so the way I understand it, for the 6 classes, you're going to have
7, including the pro man.
Yeah.
Yep.
7 with the pro man, but essentially you're having kind of most of the standard AMA classes, and you're going to have an East Championship and a West Championship, and then the TKO is going to be the pro national, and then maybe in the future you're going to have a national for the other 6 classes.
That's the goal, yeah.
As well, which I think is super cool, because I think again, that's supporting the classes that bring in 90% of the revenue and gives them a reason to travel and take time off work and, try to fulfill, racing in as many races as possible, which I think is a great idea. How does it work? Like, for example, you have the pros, so they do the East and West, and you're keeping points for them. And then how does the TKO? Is it just, so say a pro, you have a pro from the East, a pro from the West, they both have different amounts of points. Is it just who physically wins TKO itself makes the national championship, or do any of the points from their previous East-West? Because I had a couple of the pros ask me that.
No, our series is, just to be clear, it's disconnected from TKO. TKO is its own Grand National Championship. You don't have to necessarily ride our whole series to be in TKO. If you sign up on time or pre-qualified from racing it the year before, you're in TKO.
Gotcha.
And it is its own Grand National Championship. We're going to have a regional. The pros is a great example. There's going to, the pro guys are going to have a West Pro overall, East Pro overall, and then an overall championship for our entire KENDA AMA Extreme Championship Series presented by XT Gear.
Okay, so with that, if somebody, what is a differentiator? So if you have a Eastern Pro and a Western Pro, how do they become the overall pro?
The most points combined.
Most points combined.
Yeah, but that is separate from the TKO Grand National Championship.
Gotcha. So just the most points overall from the East and West.
Mm-hmm. And that'll be decided at Battle of the Goats.
Okay. So why would that be? Just because that's the last race?
Yes.
Gotcha. So basically, it's going to be in the best interest of every pro as long as there's the same number of East and West, to race all the races. But there isn't going to be a head-to-head showdown. It's that points.
Yeah, the points overall at the end. There's going to be a head-to-head battle at the rev limiter, but you gain your points for both rounds there at the East-West shootout.
Oh, okay, all right.
But that's the second round. That's just where.
All right. So no, that's really important to know. So I'm glad you said that. So the East-West shootout in Texas will be, obviously that round is for the East and West. So that is a great place for someone to up their points. So they're going to have more points, than someone else.
Yeah, that's a good way to look at it for sure.
Yeah, head to head.
Totally.
And then obviously I'm sure if there's a tie, the one that won the Battle of the Goats or did better at the Battle of the Goats is going to take honors, I would imagine.
Yeah. And I anticipate all our pros to go to all 10 rounds. They're chasing it for that overall.
Yeah.
The East and the West is awesome, but I'm sure if you're a pro guy, you want to win the whole thing.
Yeah. But to be a pro guy too, I mean, if you have like someone from, let's say a pro from the East does all the Easterns and then does the East-West, I mean, that's the maximum. I mean, they'll probably go do everything, but that's all the points that are going to count for them towards the national. Because if someone came from the West,
the regional championship.
Yeah, I guess, I mean, so that's, I mean, I don't want to get too far into weeds here, but so if someone came from the West and won a bunch of the Easterns, they'd be taking points away.
You got it.
Is that allowed?
Yeah, they would. Yeah, for sure.
So technically,
we just,
technically someone could be the East Championship, the West Championship, and the national champion.
The overall regional champion. The Grand National Champion is going to only come from TKO.
Yeah.
But so if someone just goes out there and just slays, they could be.
Yeah, and that's what I think our pros are going to do. It'd be a little harder for the amateurs. That's why I think this regional thing is so good, is because we're covering a vast area. I mean, we're going from California to Michigan,
Pennsylvania.
Yeah, Pennsylvania. Yeah, so
Idaho.
It makes it a lot yeah. have a.
Is that in America?
No, I really don't. I think they just grow potatoes.
It is America, baby.
It's part of Canada.
America.
Yeah.
If you love your country, you gotta love potatoes.
Sure do.
All three guys sitting at this table, and also Rosemary, we've all lived in Idaho. So
yeah. It's where I grew up.
Yeah, so I think this gives the East and West regional thing is really a great opportunity for the amateurs to get a title, but not have to travel if you're an East Coast guy all the way out to the Arizona, California round and still be able to capture a title. That's where.
Yeah.
I love how this is set up for the amateurs.
Yeah.
Really, I think it's awesome.
I think that is what brings your gate and gets you that big number following.
And it's pretty simple for the classes, you guys. We got a pro men, a pro women. I anticipate both those people to chase all 10 rounds. Then there's going to be an A, B, C, a 45 plus, and then an amateur women class as well.
Is there
Lovely.
Is there a way that a pro could identify as a woman, say a male?
James, I think you might be able to get away with it.
I'm not wearing a pink headband.
Man,
That's a sign of masculinity right there, baby.
That's a slippery slope. I don't really think I'm going to go down here because
Josh,
it's going to be my opinion.
Josh, you're a wise man. I would just
Yeah, James tried to trap you right there. Good job.
Try to trap you. No, you're wise. I like it.
I live in Idaho.
Yeah, you can get away with a lot in Idaho. That's why we like it. That's why we like it there. No, I think it's awesome. Everyone involved. There's a lot of names out there. You brought up the AMA. Mark Cook, his family, Josh, everyone else involved. I think it's a great thing. It's something that will elevate this racing and substantiate it, and really exciting.
Yeah, dude, the amount of support I get from my peers and my racing family, people like Kudla from the AMA, Mark, the old race team, that's one of the most motivating things for me to keep doing this. Is nice. Everybody's like, yeah, Josh, you're the guy. Let's get you at the races. We want you to be here helping make this thing even better than it is.
You bring so much value to the table because of your experience. Just insane. Like, I couldn't name anyone that has the same amount of value as you bring to the table.
Thanks, Matt. Appreciate that.
So with that, what you bring to the table, where does Ganja the gorilla suit fit into that?
Who told you about that? Well,
is it true? Is it
man,
true?
He's getting resurrected.
Is it true that you wear the Ganja gorilla suit?
It's been a little while since Ganja's been out, but he raced a few races. He came to life in Idaho at a Coeur d'Alene Enduro Cross one year because I had a gorilla suit with me from the Halloween before that we were using for extracurricular activities, and I think that year we had like 6 motos in one night, and I made sure that the gorilla suit made it on for at least 2 of those, the 2 final motos. And
if somebody wanted to view the gorilla Ganja in action, where might they find something like this?
There's a pretty good video of Ganja and Batman racing at Paula. I think it's on motorsport.com's YouTube page, but me and Batman, or Ganja and Batman, were out ripping on Halloween one year at Paula, and it was pretty epic. There's some good footage. He was wearing an open face helmet. You can see the gorilla face hanging out, and the full gorilla suit. It's a little warm, and it's really heavy when it goes in the water.
Yeah, I think someone was telling me that you probably shouldn't use a gorilla suit as a flotation device.
No, I think that was when probably one of the last times he was in action is when he went wake surfing and almost drowned.
Yeah, gorillas are not known for wake surfing.
I would say it doubled up in weight when that fur hit the water.
Yeah. For any ventilation, did you cut out the butt panels?
No, I cut out in the front so I could go to the bathroom without taking the whole suit off because it was kind of tricky.
That's why you cut out the front.
So there wasn't just a single port in the back.
I put a zipper on it. All right, man.
Wow, you have a sewing machine?
I'm handy, man.
Ladies, you hear that? He can cook and he can sew. What more do you want?
You're right.
Yeah, and he's a fabricator.
And a traveler, man. Been all over the world.
A traveler. I like it. Yeah, it's funny. All the places we run into each other all over the planet.
It's pretty awesome, man. The dirt bike community actually seems pretty small to me at this point because, people that I know in Romania, for instance, James knows, and we haven't even met him at the same time together, but
yeah, we
got mutual friends all over the place.
Yeah, it's a small family, but man, it's tight. It's a good place to be. It's a great time. We have these amazing races going on. The world travel up until this year, which is hosed, has made the world so much smaller, having Europeans come over and race here and vice versa. It's just been the technology of the bikes of what they're capable, and the tires and the mooses and just all the different configurations of what we're able to do with these bikes.
And the skill level of the riders.
The skill levels
just keeps going.
Just keeps. You see this new class, these younger guys coming up, and it's just exciting to see. Just the techniques are there, and just really fun to see this grow. Sport grow.
How old are you, Matt?
I'm 18 now.
So he's 18. When I was 18, we didn't have gummy tires, but Colton and I were going to Endurocross, and that was right after they had outlawed the trials tires from being able to compete. We were siping tires, we were soaking them, and who knows what, trying to make them softer. So Matt's coming in, you guys are coming into the snow bike world with a little bit of development already under his belt.
Yeah.
But I remember the good old days when I was cutting tires out for Schaecher when we were racing out of the back of a truck, trying to qualify for a main event, and
you guys go way back.
It's a very humbling deal for me to go all the way back with Colton. We were buddies. We knew each other in junior high and then into high school, and we started hanging out pretty regularly in high school, and then did this whole racing thing together all the way up until this point. I mean, we ain't stopping. I'm still going to the races. I love the races. That's where my heart is, and that's why I'm full send into this project I got going on this year and beyond. And
you and Colton live super close to each other now that you moved up to Coeur d'Alene.
Yep. Yeah, we're neighbors again.
I dig it, man. Well, the friendships, they go long, and it's good stuff, man. We're glad to have you here, especially,
But he's not getting any special passes this year. I want to make that very clear.
Yeah.
No special passes. If there's any ruling, that I'm playing no favorites here.
Good.
For everybody involved, Colton, sorry, bud. You're not getting any special treatment.
No, he doesn't need it. He's a stud, man.
Yeah.
Talking about this series, though, I've got some buddies back in Coeur d'Alene. They're stoked about the five-round thing because, they're going to have to take off work. Their parents are probably going to have to take off work too. And getting to 10 rounds is probably not really possible for them. But to get to 5, that's doable.
Yeah, and geographically, for those 5 for them are going to be a lot closer than if they're trying to chase the 10 or the other 5 on the race on the East as well.
Yeah. So it's possible for them to chase a title.
Yeah.
Chase a 5-round title. That's pretty sweet.
Yeah, since we're on this series again, one of my favorite things about Extreme is that, the diversity in formats. So as much as I say we're going to be trying to bring consistency to this series, the diversity is still going to be there because every property offers a different opportunity or obstacle for your race format. So within our consistent course marking or consistent scoring, all races are still going to have their individual formats.
Yeah.
And I think that's awesome about our sport.
Yeah.
Because some people may excel at one terrain, one type of riding, but
Long
not others.
Course, short course, laps, one lap,
slick
point to
dirt,
point, different
rocks.
terrain. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's excellent. No, and it's able to give each race its own character. I like to have races that have redeeming quality. I mean, we can always say, you can have it just be a gut wrencher, ass kicker, but what makes that fun is when there are redeeming where it is amazing. You're getting your ass kicked, but you're like, man, isn't this cool? And I think, again, it lets every race have its own character, which I think, again, that's really cool. Hopefully, one thing that's always nice is if the prologues and basically the race starts are organized to somewhat structure the release of riders to, help relieve some of the, pinch points and not just geographical pinch points, but let's just say technique pinch points.
Yeah.
Where, before when this was just getting started, you let a class, whatever that's less experienced in the next class go, and then it's just a shit show.
Right,
and then
dude.
The next class comes through, and they're say it's just a little more experience, and it just clogs up the whole thing. So I notice a lot of these, obviously in Europe, prologues are huge because that essentially organizes the release somewhat according to skill to have better flow through the entire program.
I was talking about those top 3 things, and that's one of them that the riders want to make sure was controlled better this season is having consistent scoring, seeding, or starting and seeding order, and that comes from qualifying. You say prologue, it can be a prologue, it can be a hot lap, it could be a more easy qualifying race where it's easier to pass and stuff like that, so you're not getting hung up, but just something to help funnel them into that correct starting position. So by the time they're in that hardest race of the day or the weekend, they're not getting bottlenecked behind guy. That isn't doesn't have quite the technique they do.
Yeah, exactly. I think that is massive, and that in itself helps correct the pinch points, etc. Because, a lot of points may not have even really been a pinch point, as far as organizing the track. But the way the riders were dumped into it, it made a skill pinch point, maybe not necessarily a full geographical pinch point.
Right.
So, no, that's awesome. That's awesome to hear. And again, I think that kind of rides, it goes down with the idea of giving all these riders that travel the most time on the track. Because if you're sitting at one of those points for a half hour, that's a half hour of your race where you could be riding, or being challenged by other obstacles. So again, it's not just the pinch point and being bummed out for that. It's just, giving people to try to experience as much of the course as possible, for that day or weekend.
But it is inevitable at some point there's going to be...
it happens.
I mean, come on, these are hard enduro races, baby.
Yeah, it happens.
There's going to be some...
It happens, but, there's, that's why prologues and hot laps and, the different, help sort it out a bit. But yes, there's always going to be the war, which, hey, that's what makes it fun. It's part of it. But
you're not only battling against the terrain, but you're battling against other riders too, because sometimes they could be your biggest obstacle.
Sometimes. Well, shoot, man. I think, I think we got a good program on it. It's coming up pretty soon. I mean, we're already.
First race is March 21st out in Page, Arizona, the Grindstone Extreme.
Yeah, we're almost to February.
Super looking forward to that event, man. Looks like a really cool area, just south of Lake Powell. Pretty sure, yeah.
Yeah, Page.
Yeah.
I know James Flynn and Jim Flynn Sr. quite well. Good group.
Right.
Jim Flynn's a great guy. I expect a great race out of those guys.
We've driven by that terrain quite a bit, and you look out there and you're like, man, I really want to go ride that.
Yeah, I got a lot of confidence in those guys.
Yeah, Page, Arizona, like Matt was saying, I've driven by there I don't know how many times, and we always say, hey, man, we need to come back and ride this. But unfortunately, we're always fully loaded with a gazillion bikes, and you're either going from point A to point B, and it's just to stop and drag everything out has been...
Oh, yeah, but, dude, how many places have you drove by that you wanted to stop and drag everything out?
Dude,
we are like dirt bikers. We were just driving down the highway. Oh, yeah, there's a spot. Yeah, that hill.
Oh, look at that hill climb.
Oh, those rocks. Dude. Driving over here was that the whole way.
It is. Coeur d'Alene to Bozeman's a sweet drive. It's not bad. I look out the window like a kid, like imagining the dirt bike.
Yeah, the hilltops.
Kind of how I'm visualizing the whole hard enduro scene in the U.S. Like we've kind of been in like the infant phase, and we have so much potential. And now that Josh is getting involved with this, and he's going to have a huge say in what goes on. He's kind of like the steroid getting injected into the. This kind of.
What are you even thinking about?
He's kind of like the HGH and the form of the hard enduro series, and now it can just grow up super big.
Yeah, can we have the volume down a bit? It just keeps elevating higher and higher. I mean, it's just been getting louder and louder.
On my mic?
On my headphones.
Oh.
How's your guys' headphones?
I could maybe a little bit. It was getting a little bit louder, but it's not anymore.
Going out. There we go. Well,
Did
cool.
I get too close to the mic?
No. I think I don't know, for some reason, the TriCaster system sometimes has a life of its own and just starts going higher and higher and higher.
Well, I mean, for everybody, please go and check out our website, the KENDA AMA Extreme Off-Road Championship, presented by XC Gear, Instagram page, Facebook, give it a follow. The updates will be coming in hot regularly. We got Mary over there, and she is not scared to post. So all updates will be there. It explains very well how to sign up for races, how to get directions, all the info you want to know is going to be there.
Man, we're looking forward to it. We're looking forward to see how this goes, and we're looking to help out and be involved as well. And man, it's gonna be a great year. So, hey everybody, thank you for tuning in. Again, you've got us on InsideEnduro.com, Inside Enduro Instagram, on YouTube. Subscribe, hit that like button, lick that like button.
That's our new saying. Lick the like button.
Yeah, whatever you want
We're
to
the
do.
first ones with that saying, guys.
Just remember, guys, Inside Enduro.
Please check them out, man. Thank you guys so much for having me out. I had a freaking blast. Thank you, Rosemary, for hooking me up and the hospitality.
Yeah, it was a blast to go ride with you. It's fun being around everyone that's just stoked on life.
Yeah, when you guys get back from the South, man, I'm coming back over. We'll do some more fun stuff.
Right on, everybody. Hey, remember, Inside Enduro, we make Enduro. Cheers.
Boys.